You can just present it if you want. I mean, I don't know any more than you know, really. If they have a question. Certainly not.
So, alright, let's go on out first day.
No.
It's not like mathematics, but yeah, I think we'll see the classes.
Nice. That's easy.
You got first.
I have, yeah, that's why I have a black hole set of last year. Yeah, you know.
Test. What's that?
No, I had 15 sometimes I think subs they have put us right. Yeah. Check should be
Yeah, they go, you got first year.
Chris, you find a black jacket. Media Friday. I wish you could reflect this. Okay, so now we go. So it's excellent. Just okay, everybody, that's up. We're setting the microphone back up. Here it is.
Hello. It did not work.
Oh, you know what? It's fine.
Alright, well, if you want to think about it, what
Set it so I can hear it.
it was good, but.
It's right. So then we'll be.
The opportunity to address the board on any item regarding business that is not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each.
Our first public comment is from Matt Godinez, who is one of our second grade teachers and is tonight representing himself as the Calistoga Association of Teachers president.
Hear me now? Okay, there we go. But yes, I was going to introduce myself first. Some of you know me already. I'm Matthew Godinez. I've been teaching over 20 years. I've taught a lot of different subjects and grade levels to students in grades kindergarten through 9th grade. So I have worn a lot of hats. I have a lot of perspectives to bring to the table. And I'm the newly elected president of the Calistoga Associated Teachers. And part of the reason I wanted to get up here is to just have an open invitation to board members, to parents, to the community even, to have a dialogue with me at any point in time about how teachers are feeling about things and really our expertise. We have amazing teachers in Calistoga. We know a lot about education, about the science of pedagogy, and about just what makes things work in the classroom. So I'm going to be at the Calistoga Roastery on Thursday mornings at the very minimum from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. So if anybody out there wants to come and say hello or chat or ask some questions about things, we're listening and we'd love to talk. I also wanted to give a little kind of beginning of year feedback or status report from what I'm hearing from teachers for the start of the school year this year. So I'm going to give that in the form of pluses and deltas, which is something we do a lot in education. Pluses being positives we'd like to give kudos to and relate knowledge, and deltas being things that ideally would change. And so in the pluses department, I've heard from my colleague, Vice President Jessica Musser, that they're off to a running start at the junior senior high school. So it sounds like things are going smoothly there. At the elementary school site where I work, I've heard good comments about the new paint and some of the outdoor spaces, as well as people are excited about the new front row communication system that we've installed in the classrooms. So that's going well. One delta that we would definitely like to see change is that we are currently lacking textbooks, workbooks, and curricular materials in order to teach to the standards and hit the ground running with education. So ideally, both as soon as possible this year and ongoing into the future, it would really be ideal to have those materials by the first teacher workday, let alone the first day of school for the students, so that we really have time to prepare and plan and start delivering instruction to those students as soon as possible. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of some of the good and some of the things that we'd like to see some changes to, and also just open dialogue for communication in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think I can speak on behalf of all the board that we look forward to a productive communication and relationship moving forward. Okay, 6.1. Oh, we don't have any more public comments. Okay. 6.1, board policies and administrative regulations, first reading.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to do a first read on some changes to our board policy around maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions, and the timing is good to talk about this. We did a training with our staff on Friday that I'll speak a little bit more about during my board report. But we had a training on this topic, so it was a good time for us to take a look at our policy and say, is this the policy? Is this policy working? Is it the right policy for us? When we did that, we looked at policies from other districts, other examples, and we ultimately concluded that our policy is pretty good as is. It's direct and it covers what it needs to cover. We are recommending a few changes that come to us from Rob Cutbirth. He's an attorney with North Bay Schools Insurance Authority. And so we are recommending a change to point number 10, which has to do with socializing and spending time with students outside of school or school-sponsored events. And it qualifies that, says without invitation or knowledge of a parent or guardian. This is a good change in our context of being in a small town. We know that some of our teachers and staff members are also community members, parents of children who go to school here, and they're going to interact with our students outside of school. And that's okay, right? But you want to make sure that when you're doing that, that the other parent has an understanding and knowledge of that happening. And you're not doing it unilaterally. We've also added a qualifier at the bottom, basically saying these are great rules, but if there's an emergency or an extenuating circumstance, it might be okay to break the rules that are here. And I think point number 12 is a good example. Bullet 12 is about providing transportation to students in your personal vehicle. In this context, this is really, with the exception of 10, about when you're at work or on duty. When you're on duty, you wouldn't just put a student in your car without everybody knowing, right? But if there were a real emergency, and you needed to for everyone's safety, so you couldn't get a hold of police, can't get a hold of the ambulance, this student has got to get help. There might be a circumstance where that's appropriate. So these changes to our policy really make it more pragmatic and practical and kind of capture some of those things that could happen where we need to have some flexibility. So those are our recommended changes, and I'll also take any questions. Again, this is a first read that we would bring back to you probably next month for approval.
Does anyone have any comments or suggestions? Thank you for putting that together. All right. 6.2, the LCAP update.
Thank you. So we submitted our LCAP to the Napa County Office of Ed, and it's submitted every year, and they review it, and they are the ones that approve it based on whether we follow the template, whether we're meeting all of the guidelines and requirements from the state. And so this year they said they were going to approve it, but there were some minor modifications that they wanted us to make, which just have to be shared with you as an informational update. And so under goal number 1, we had 4 actions that we had said that the actions were directed towards our English learners. And they wanted us to be more specific and say not just English learners, but we also need to include our long-term English learners, which are students who have not been redesignated after 6 years within a school district. And so on action 1.3.4, we added LTELs. Under 1.6.1, we added that same group. Under 1.3.3, we added both our long-term English learners and we added students with disabilities. And then under 1.3.6, we added our long-term English learners as well as students with disabilities. Under goal number 2, action 2.2.4, because of on the dashboard, they were scoring in the red, we clearly delineated that we were focusing on our, not all students, but also Hispanic students and then students with disabilities. And then finally, goal number 4, we had originally written it as a broad goal similar to goals 1, 2, and 3. And goal number 4 is our new goal related to the equity multiplier funds that's specifically for Palisades. And Napa County Office of Ed, when they wrote their plan and submitted it to the state came back and said it cannot be a broad goal. It has to be a specific SMART goal. And so they turned back to us and said the same thing. So we redrafted the goal. And so now it states by June 2027, the attendance rate at Palisades will exceed 97.5%, while we will also increase the ratings of students on connections and community and whole child elements of the LEAP survey. And we don't have a qualifier for the LEAP survey because we're going to give it to our Palisades students related to this goal in September. So we'll set our baseline in September. So those are the updates for the LCAP.
Thank you. All right, report 7.1, Calistoga Elementary School Principal.
All right, I'm going to try the microphone in the stand. It'll be different for me, but well, welcome to 24-25 school year. And for ensuring everything is going to really be about back to school and what we did to prepare to start for the school year. So for LCAP goal number 1, ensuring academic excellence for all students. We start out the year with 2 PD days. One of them probably Michael will go into more detail, but we did learn about the potential for artificial intelligence as a tool to help our teachers, whether it is breaking down essential standards into learning targets or being a means to put together information quickly for our students, or even as a guide for lesson planning. It was really interesting to be part of this new era, and so that was what we did the last Thursday. And then on Friday, teachers participated in Napa County Office of Education's training in structured literacy. The focus is K-3, but we are expanding it to also include our upper grades because there are areas sometimes where students do have gaps when they are learning how to read. And it does come down to whether or not there was initial exposure in some of those primary grades. And so that is where we focused our professional development at the beginning of the year. With LCAP goal number 2, providing safe, healthy, and positive school environment. And we'll probably be talking a lot about this tonight, is finishing up the remodeling and the modernization. We had teachers coming in on August 8th. To start the process of unpacking the boxes that went into the storage units and then getting their rooms back in order. And it's been exciting that I've gotten quite a bit of positive feedback from our community. We're a walking area, so we have quite a few people walk by the school, and I'd be going out to my car and they say, "Hey, I want to talk to you about that paint. Looks really good. I'm really excited about that paint." So it has been very exciting just to see the community be involved in that work occurring. And I also want to give, a little further back. Okay, thank you. I also want to give a shout out to Up Valley Family Center. They have been absolutely wonderful for supporting today. They set up 2 photo areas for our students for back to school with great balloon arches and everything. They also gave out backpacks to our kindergarten students, and it has not only their name on it, but also the year that they'll be graduating from high school, which we have quite a few families that then when their children become seniors at Calistoga Junior Senior High, part of their senior pictures, they have their backpacks and they keep it for all those years. And then additionally, they helped out with tissues and tea today, which was a great event. And then finally, for LCAP goal number 3, for parent engagement, on August 12th, we had our TK kindergarten orientation. We have been doing this event for the past 3 years. And what we do is we have all of our students come in. We divide them into 3 groups, A, B, and C. The parents then drop them off as if they are going to be going to school. So we practice drop off. Then the students do different activities in each of the classrooms, and then they rotate every 15 minutes. And then teachers get a sense of where the students are at. They get practice, walking into classrooms, getting a sense of what the classrooms look like so that a lot of those jitters go away the first day. And then in the meantime, while the teachers are working with the students, I work with parents in the multipurpose room and just go over the procedures and things that we need in order to make a successful kindergarten year. And this year it went really smoothly, and we really like having this event because today, a lot of those jitters were gone, even with the students who didn't necessarily go to that orientation. I think so many students felt like I've already been to school. And so it was very smooth this morning getting our kindergarten started. And then finally, today we had our Tissues and Tea. That is a collaborative effort with Up Valley Family Center. And we invite all of our TK and kindergarten parents to come in the morning. We introduce staff at Up Valley Family Center. We introduce staff over at Calistoga Elementary. We talk about programs and services as wraparound services for students, and talk to our parents about ways that they can participate in their child's education and also ways that they can volunteer. So that concludes my report for this evening. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Next up, Calistoga Junior Senior High School Principal.
Good evening. Welcome back, everyone. I will start with LCAP goal number 1, ensuring academic excellence for all students. CJSHS held a successful summer program for both junior high and high school students. The start of the school year began with 7th grade orientation. This event included an academic preparation workshop provided by junior high teachers, followed by workshops put on by the Calistoga Police Department, ACE, which is our after-school program, Up Valley Family Center, athletics, and a tour of campus. And we squeezed in lockers in there too. Students whose parents completed PDC, parent data confirmation, were able to pick up their schedules. CJSHS also held a 8th through 12th day registration for students to pick up their schedules once their PDC completion was confirmed. At the end of the 23-24 school year, our staff reviewed and approved an updated bell schedule. Well, we didn't officially approve it. We got consensus and then we sent it to the district for approval. And now every day starts at 8:20 a.m., which is really exciting because Mondays were the only day that started at 8 a.m. And it also, and looking at our data, Monday morning had the most tardies. So we're hopeful that by making every day an 8:20 start, our tardies on Monday will decrease. CJSHS administration, in collaboration with district administration, coordinated our welcome back professional development for certificated staff. At our site, we reviewed academic growth, which reflected growth on our CASP scores. Our WASP coordinator, Ms. Serber, was able to put together some preliminary graphs, which was really exciting to look at. And we will continue to dig into that data. Additionally, Alex provided individual student data for teachers to look at their rosters before students walked in day 1. In regards to LCAP Goal 2, provide a safe, healthy, and positive school environment. During our PD days, our administration also reviewed the safety protocols, providing them all the staff with emergency guidelines that can be shared with students. Additionally, we also reviewed the cell phone and hall pass policies and came to agreements to ensure student safety during the school day. We also reviewed with staff the possibility for creating more positive recognition with our online platform, Minga. And as a staff and in collaboration with our leadership class, we will continue to brainstorm and implement opportunities to celebrate student participation and access with Minga. CJSHS will continue to offer mental health services in collaboration with Up Valley Family Center for this school year. In regards to LCAP Goal 3, increase parent engagement and enhance communication. In collaboration with the district, our site held several PDC events to help support the online registration process. We will continue to send out weekly newsletters to students and families with information about events, activities, and important updates occurring on campus. We will also hold monthly coffee with the principal, which encourages parents to come onto campus, ask questions, and learn about what's happening on school grounds. The first coffee with the principal will be Thursday, September 5th at 8:30 a.m. here in the NPR cafeteria. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Director of Facilities, Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight? I can't believe it's already August, and it's probably the fastest summer we've had and probably one of the busiest. I do have some updates. As has been mentioned before, the CS mod is complete and seems to be pretty popular. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, the back area that was created in that space behind 18 through 24 turned out really nice. So I think it's going to be a real functional area for the staff. We have tables coming, but I think they're still a couple weeks out. The riverbank was also completed successfully, at least the portion of the riverbank that we had planned to do this summer. The plantings to replant that bank to stabilize it are going to take place in October, November. It's just kind of a better time to be planting plants and gives them a better survival rate. The STEM building is moving right along. All the forms are being done right now. All the conduits and plumbing and electrical are all in place. And they'll probably be pouring that foundation late next week. As for the athletics fields, tonight's agenda has a contract for our CEQA process. which I'll talk further on that, but let's see. Also, we had an architect that did a feasibility study on the TK classrooms over at the elementary school. Looks like we'll be able to move forward with those. And we have that architect agreement on tonight's board meeting as well. We also have a meeting with the city in the future, probably at the end of the month, to start discussing the flood map adjustments. I think we're going to do an administrative floodway, which would be more overseen by the city as opposed to FEMA. We waited for FEMA's maps to get updated. It'd be a couple years. So, anybody have any questions? No. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. 7.4, Director of Educational Services and Human Resources.
Okay, well, I'm excited to be back. I'm sure everyone is. I know our teachers are excited to be back. I'm sure our students are excited to be back. My kids went back last week and they had a great week, but they were exhausted. Came home every day. How was it? It was great. And then they proceed to melt down. I think, I know our teachers are going to go home tired today. I know our site administrators are going to go home tired today, and our kids, we all got to build up that school stamina and get back in the groove. But yeah, it's an exciting time of year. We had a great start to the year last Thursday and Friday. And I'll share some of the PD topics, the professional development topics that we went over that were important. We did some work around artificial intelligence. Like Nicole said, we had a woman by the name of Tammy Lind come out from Wisconsin, and she did a training at both school sites. And she did a great job. I met Tammy on on Zoom. She works for a company, Design for Learning, that we've worked with in the past, and they're a great company. I met her on Zoom, and we had a good meeting, but I wasn't sure who she would be in person, honestly. And then she showed up, and she was dynamic and warm and personable, and her presentations were very good. She went over a little bit of what is artificial intelligence, but not too much that we were bored. And then she moved into using Gemini for Google inside Google Workspace. And what that basically means is we all use Google Docs, right? Google Slides, Google Sheets, and it's putting artificial intelligence inside of those documents. And it's a really great starting point for us because we're so comfortable with using Google Docs. And so within Google Docs and those platforms, you just have a button, you click, and you can access artificial intelligence to help you make that document better. Right. So I think that's our starting point. And we're going to offer that as an opt-in program for teachers who want that tool this year. And we have to tell them by the end of the day tomorrow to lock in our early bird pricing. And so far we have about 2/3 of the staff opting in. And I'll send out another reminder. And so I think we'll be a little above that. But it's not a traditional, like I told the staff, it's not like a curriculum implementation where you're trying to get everyone to use it and use it with fidelity. It's a tool that can help us be better, that we're going to offer to support people who want to use it, but there's no obligation to use it or to use it in lockstep with one another. I did some training for staff on workplace violence prevention plan. Like I told them, not like the most fun topic, but a very important topic when we talk about staff safety. That's something that we give our full attention to. We are required to do annual trainings. And so this first year, we're going to do all that training in person so that if staff have questions, they can ask those questions. And then in future years, that might be an online training as it becomes more of a compliance issue for folks that have already had training. We did a training around boundaries in the workplace, boundaries with students. We did that in the big gym for all staff, certificated, classified. The presenter was Jacob Houghton out of Texas. He's a former teacher, coach, administrator, and he was brought to us in partnership with North Bay Schools Insurance Authority. And it was a really good and important training. It's a conversation that we have not had explicitly. I'm sure we talk with one another about this issue, but we haven't sat together and talked about the importance of what does healthy boundaries look like between an adult and a student? How do we know where that line is? How are we careful not to cross that line? What do we do if we see ourselves or someone else approaching that line? We want to make sure that we're keeping our students safe, our staff safe, and the district safe. And Jacob was great. He had a great personality. He spoke for 2 hours about a really serious topic, but he was able to keep it light and keep folks engaged. And I'm really happy that we did the training. Even just to introduce that as a point of conversation that I hope staff are still talking to one another about and reflecting on. It was certainly, I think, a good use of our time. And then we also had some staff meeting time, which is really important for principals to have time with their staff. Also want to call out, the gym was great. It looked really nice. Chris did a great job of, we had like tables, like round tables that were pretty large with like white chairs and green tablecloths. I think staff felt, that they were really welcomed back. I appreciated that it was like temperature controlled, good like audio visual. It was like a nice day this year, but it could have been like 100 degrees, right? So it was a really nice way to kick the year off. Also want to share with you, I participated in a panel recently with the Learning Policy Institute of California, who's putting together a teacher workforce study for the state legislature, trying to understand what's happening with teaching, hiring, teacher shortage, recruiting strategies, obstacles to staffing. And I've said this to you before, but I'm going to say it again. We're just so fortunate. When I say we, I really mean our students, to have classes that are fully staffed with credentialed teachers. In that panel that I was on, we were the only district that was fully staffed or near fully staffed. And the links that districts out there are going to try to get fully staffed are extensive. You've got departments trying to create teacher credential programs within their districts. One of the gentleman in the training or in the panel was talking about, he basically is contacting teachers as they enter their teacher credential program and trying to recruit them from the day they walk into a program to come to his district, and following those relationships for 1.5 years, 2 years. And we don't have that issue, and we should never take it for granted. I think there's a lot of reasons why this is an attractive district to be in, but we need to continue to be attentive to that. But yeah, I'm happy for our students to have classrooms not only with fully qualified people, but really good teachers, not just teachers with a credential, but high quality instructors. I will say that despite being fully staffed, one thing we're going to have to make sure we're paying attention to is teacher assignments. For the first time, we just saw the release of data from the Department of Education that's been publicly released around teacher assignments for the 22-23 school year. And what that means is the state is now analyzing, is every class being taught by someone who has the appropriate credential or authorization? So should you have a PE teacher teaching calculus? No, right? The state wants to call that out, but there are some other places where it's not as clear. And so for our data, there are a lot of places where we are 100% compliant and clear. Art, computers, CTE, world language, music, social science, elective, PE. There are 2 places specifically that we are not in compliance with that we're going to have to strategize on our approach. One is called self-contained, and it really has to do with English language development. There are a whole series of English learner authorizations or credentials that someone could have. Every teacher on our staff has an English learner authorization from a list. Some of those allow you to teach within a content area like English. Some of those allow you to teach a contained classroom of English learner students. We had an incident where someone was teaching an English learner group, but had the wrong authorization. Right. So we're going to have to figure out how to get in compliance. The more significant area, and something that we are to some degree protesting, is that in our 5th and 6th grade core classes, we have our teachers teaching, say, math to 3 separate groups of students. The state will allow you to teach it to 2 groups of students. Right. It feels somewhat arbitrary that a math teacher could teach to just 2 and not 3 groups. We do believe that our schedule is good for kids to allow the math teacher to specialize in math more and not have to focus on prepping for science and English as well. Seems like it would lead to better instruction. But regardless, it's coming up as a misassignment. So we're going to have some discussions. There are some approaches we can take to be in compliance, even if we stay with that model. So we will bring back some ideas to the board on that. But it'll be a complex issue. I was looking this up. There's 3,500 separate courses that you can offer. And there are 50 different credential types, right? And so HR departments, ed services departments across the state right now are trying to get good at this math of trying to figure out how do we make sure everyone's in compliance. So it'll be a good process to go through for us and everyone else, but it is something that we're going to have to work on and continue to communicate to the board about. So that's my report.
Thank you for the report, and thanks for staying up on all the credentialing I think our 5th and 6th grade programs are wonderful. So whatever you can do to allow us to keep them would be great. Thank you.
Okay, 7.5, Director of Business Services.
Good evening. How's everyone tonight? I am going to start my report with the state budget updates from the state budget adoption that happened in June. Our district always adopts our budget prior to the state adopting their budget. So if the state budget adoption makes significant changes to affect our district budget, I'm obligated to publish those significant changes through a board meeting 45 days after the state budget adoption date. There were not significant changes by the state budget adoption that made significant changes to our budget adoption. So we didn't have to wait for that 45-day, or we didn't have to make that 45-day deadline. But I wanted to bring forward some points that were part of the state budget adoption. This information is coming from School Services of California. It's a budget workshop that I attend every July after the state does adopt their budget, so we can learn about what those state budget adoption issues were. And so just a few points that are kind of interesting. Well, they're interesting to me. You may not find them as interesting, but a few interesting points. California's unemployment rate in June was 5.2%. The federal unemployment rate was 4.1%. The S&P 500 is at its peak, the highest level it's been, and it's more than doubled since March of 2020. So it's an increase of 112% since the pandemic. Economic growth nationwide slowed in the first quarter of 2024, reflecting less spending by consumers and a downturn in federal government spending. Our gross domestic product fell from 3.4% in quarter 4, 2023 to 1.4% in quarter 1, 2024. That means restrained growth is predicted to continue through 2024. Inflation remains high, but it is projected to decline in the coming months. Federal interest rates are still higher than what we're used to seeing at about 5.4%. There is some expectation that these rates are going to get lower in the upcoming months. But if inflation does not decrease, the federal government will not decrease the federal interest rate. The median home price for a home in the San Francisco Bay Area is $1.1 million, the average cost of a home in San Francisco. But that's not the highest in the state. Orange County now surpasses San Francisco, with the average being $1.3 million to purchase a home. With that in mind, home sales have dropped over 6% since so far in 2024 for the obvious reasons of high cost value to homes and high interest rates. Families are leaving the state of California primarily due to the high cost of housing, the job market, and a better living for their family overall. This is decreasing California public school enrollment. It's estimated that public school enrollment will drop down to about 5 million students in 2033-34 from well over 6 million in 07-08, which was the highest enrollment since 2000. That's estimated to be close to a 30% drop by 33-34 in public schools. All these factors I just mentioned provide a risk to the California state budget. In addition, the national election can also provide risk to the California state budget. Elections change market reactions, which in turn change our state revenues. On the Prop 98 side of the budget, which is our education funding, the state did their best to not take cash away from school districts, given the huge budget deficit they were facing. This created deferrals for school districts and the use of the state rainy day fund to continue to guarantee Prop 98 at its minimum. ADA school districts will receive a 1.07% COLA, which does not usually cover staff step and column, let alone any other increases that are fixed in a school budget from year to year. And if those ADA districts are experiencing the declining enrollment, like we talked about, they might even see a negative to their income because they're losing students. They're going to get less money for the overall. To put things in perspective, if we had to cut expenses in our budget compared as if we were an ADA district and we had to cut expenses because of declining enrollment, we would be cutting over $400,000 from our budget this year. So just thinking about other ADA districts and what they're facing right now with only a 1.07% COLA. I know I say this all the time, but we are very fortunate as a district in the fact that we are community funded and we receive property tax revenue above and beyond our state aid. Some other notes from the state budget adoption that are going to affect our district ELOP, which is our Extended Learning Opportunity Program, is a fully funded program that requires us to operate 9 hours of an instructional day to our students in our elementary school and 30 extra days at also 9 hours of instruction beyond the school year. We do this in cooperation with the Boys and Girls Club and Hearts and Hands, and we receive about $900,000 per year to fund this program. It is currently taking us about 2 years to spend a 1-year allocation. Prop 28, which is our music and arts, is fully funded this year, but it is expected to drop significantly next year. And that we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the agenda, but that is where 1% of Prop 98 budget goes to arts and music programs in schools. And that 1% is going to fluctuate every single year. So there may be years where we're funded well, and there may be years where we're not funded enough to cover our expenses in those programs. TK, transitional kindergarten enrollment, is extended to the next 3 months in the calendar year for 24-25, which means if a 4-year-old turns 5 by June 2nd of 2025, they can enter TK this year. This has increased our TK enrollment, and next year the enrollment date moves to September, which would encompass a full year of TK expansion. Next year, also, the teacher to student ratio goes from 12.1 currently down to 10.1. So we'll need to accommodate for that in the coming year. There's a bill out there. It's SB 153, recess time. It comes into effect with 24-25 for students in grades TK through 6. This means that school districts must offer 30 minutes of recess on regular school days and 15 minutes of recess on early release days. Students cannot be denied recess time for disciplinary reasons unless the student presents an immediate threat. Looking at the instructional minutes, I believe we're okay at our elementary school, so that's good to know. We don't have to change anything. We are in compliance. But I'm sure this is going to be on the audit next year because it's a new law. Universal Meals is still happening, and the state is fully funding this. All school districts must offer both free breakfast and free lunch to our students who request it. This funding also includes money given directly to low-income families during the summertime. This was called the Summer EBT program in the past, but the state's now changed the name to SunBucks. And because we are a CEP district, which means a majority of our students are free lunch and breakfast, the distribution happens to all the families in the district. So each family should get an EBT card in the mail. It's a debit card. And right now we're seeing around $120, but they could be funding, depending on income, up to $360 per family. So they do distributions in June, July, and August. And so coming back to school, if we have new families that meet the qualifications, they will, because we're a CEP district. They will also get debit cards, which is great. The state has also put into place an attendance recovery program for school districts. The program is intended to mitigate chronic absenteeism and attendance loss and improve absentee data reporting to the state, which also improves school finances. Even for a community funded district like ours, this is important because there are lots of other programs that are funded through ADA data. But more importantly, we need to make sure our students can make up lost time, and they can do that before school, after school, on the weekend, and we can report those to the state, and that improves that student's academic outcome as well, right? Because they're getting more instructional time for being absent. We haven't talked about this with admin yet, other than to mention to our principal at the high school that this is a program that's coming, but we do have the opportunity to provide in-person instruction, and we do have ELOP funding that actually can pay for it as long as we offer it at both sites. Last but not least, there were some significant changes made to independent study programs with the state budget adoption. Independent study contracts can now consist of 1 day only, where in prior years our practice in the district was a 5-day minimum. If the parent and students request 1 day, we must grant them the 1 day. Short-term independent study, which is what our district has, is changed to 15 days or less. Prior years, it was less than 15 days. So there's an extra day in there for short-term independent study contracts as well. In prior years, contract signatures for the independent study agreement needed to be done within 10 days of a student coming back from that independent study trip. And now that requirement has changed to it can be signed anytime during the school year. These changes to the law will change our board policies that are in effect for independent study. And so those policies will come to the board in the future. I'm just waiting for a CSBA to hopefully come out with some guidance and provide the policy, and we'll bring them to you as soon as we get those. The one last thing I want to talk with you about tonight is the Summer Assistance Program. This is a program offered to our classified employees. It's a state benefit program where employees can set aside a dollar amount from their monthly pay to be paid to them in the month of July when they're not working. And the state will match up to dollar for dollar of what the employee sets aside to be paid in July. We have currently, we have currently 18 employees participating in the program. There are parameters for what qualifies an employee to be in the program. They must make less than $62,400 per year, and they can deduct no more than 10% of their monthly salary. I said the state matches dollar for dollar, but this year, because there are so many participants and there's only so much money in the pot, that dollar for dollar is $1 to 67 cents. So they will be sending us a check in July for 67 cents to whatever our employees have taken out. And right now we're estimating almost $43,000 that employees are deducting from their paycheck to get some extra money from the state. So it's a good program. It does cost our district a little bit of money because we have to pay the payroll benefits on those employees. So for us, it's going to be a couple $1,000s, which obviously is worth it because our employees are going to really benefit from the state program. That's all I have for you tonight, unless you have any questions or comments.
No, thank you.
I have a question. Like, you know how on the absenteeism, how you're talking about, I know like a lot of Hispanic students, they go to like, I don't know how many weeks off we have in December, but they take off. And that's where the absenteeism, a lot of, like, how can we stop that or encourage the parents to like, not have the kids miss so much schools? Because in my opinion, they're prioritizing going to their parties over there in their hometowns instead of their kids' education.
So there's a couple ways that they can make up the difference. One is independent study. So now they can take an independent study contract and they can have work assigned to them for the entire time they're gone. And as long as they complete that work, they get credit for that work. And it's like an attendance day at school. The other thing is the attendance recovery program that's just been put into place for this new year. So if we offer a program where on Saturdays or after school or before school, they can come in and make up that time, then that's where they can make up the work as well.
Thank you.
And many of our families do the independent study route right now.
Good.
So they get permission beforehand, they get work to take with them, and then they do the work while they're away.
And is that on? Yeah. And I had a question because I remember back in my day when I was attending school here, we used to only have 2 weeks off at Christmas, and we extended to 3 weeks because there was such a large amount of the student population that was going on family trips. Is there that amount of students that are currently participating in that? Like, is there still an influx?
There's still a large amount of our families that take off for the 3 weeks. Yes.
And take off the additional time. And
Well,
use an
that's why I'm
independent
saying the
study
3
contract.
weeks, yeah, that, well, I mean, what they do on their 3 weeks is,
Right.
but that rolls over into the start of the new.
Some, we haven't collected that data, but we can collect that data to look over previous years to see how many of our families over the last 5 or 10 years use the independent study model, either the week before or the week after.
Yeah, because I think it would be interesting to know, because I know that our winter break starts, just a few days before Christmas this year. So I feel like it's probably going to.
It might have an
It
impact.
might have an impact since it is delayed, or not delayed, but it is, the school year runs up until closer to that date. So I don't know I don't know if I'm suggesting 4 weeks at Christmas, because that's a very long time to be out of school. And I don't think that's a good idea. But
We're out for 2 months in the summer. So,
yeah,
there's a
right?
balance.
There is a balance, but just if we could look at that and see, because I know that it used to be 2 weeks and was extended to 3.
Yeah,
but-
we can run that data to see how many of our families are extending the 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And we've surveyed our families before, and a majority of them want the 3 weeks because they know that we do have family members who are only gone for those 3 weeks as well. Yeah, so there's a balance.
Yeah.
And I have all of that. We can bring it back next
Oh,
month.
perfect. Thank you.
I was just gonna chime in that I think last year we had between 35 and 45 families, students who went out either for the week prior to break or the week after. Most students here are taking the week after because it's the start of the second semester and they don't want to miss finals.
Right.
But what many families have shared is that the tickets are more
More
expensive
closer.
closer to the holiday. So many will buy tickets for like the first or second week of December. And the challenge this year is that, yes, we get out on like the 21st. So we do suspect there will be more people taking off the 2 weeks prior to winter break, which will put a challenge on our finals week.
And of those families, did all of them sign up for the independent study?
Those are the numbers I have based on forms I signed,
For
and I
independent
asked
study,
Maria
okay.
to make a list of how many people missed finals and how
Right.
many missed the first week back. So
Right.
we can get that data as Maureen shared.
Okay, thank you.
All right, 7.6 Superintendent.
Thank you. Welcome back. Hope you all had a wonderful summer. The first thing that I want to share is last Thursday, we're still talking about our MIT group. Last Thursday, our group of MIT students, we were contacted by MIT. They are working on building the idea of intellectual property and invention education across the nation. And they had a connection with one of our senators here in California who decided that he wanted to bring a resolution to the Senate floor to make October Intellectual Property Month. And so they reached out to us and said, you just invented 2 inventions. You are patent pending on 2 inventions. Do you think your students would want to come to the Senate? And of course, our students said yes. And so 17 of them, very last minute, were like, yes, I'm in. We organized transportation. So we had Ms. Heather Brooks, Miss Monica Garibay, and then a parent volunteer, Doug Allen, that changed their Thursday day to drive our students up to Sacramento. They left here at 6 a.m. To make it to Sacramento and sit in the Senate. And they were mentioned by the Senate committee that they were there to help support October becoming Intellectual Property Month. And quite candidly, and I share this with the students and I share this with the staff, it was originally supposed to be on Monday and I was going to be a chaperone. And then they had to change it and they moved it to Thursday and I couldn't go Thursday and I was heartbroken. And I told the students that like, this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity. So this is just one more experience that we're so proud that our students get to go and represent our community for the hard work that they've done. Last Friday, as was already communicated, we had our all staff meeting and luncheon. The theme for this year is, I stole it from the 2024 Paris Olympics, but the theme is alone we go faster, but together we go further. So I'm excited for us to collectively work together to move our district forward. We reviewed the LCAP, we talked about construction updates, and then we went in detail on what our next steps are with our work with Transcend and redesigning our mission, thinking about our design principles and our learner outcomes. And I'll be bringing that presentation along with our design team to our September board meeting to talk about what our next steps are. The goal is that at the end of the year, we'll have a new mission. We'll have outlined what our design principles are and that we will have codified what our learner outcomes will be for the entire district as well. Today was the first day of school. I was able to stop into every classroom and visit with teachers as well as students. And that is one of the special parts about working in Calistoga, is that not many districts would I be allowed to go into every single classroom on the first day of school. And so that was pretty exciting. Obviously, there's a range of emotions from our youngest unsure about school to being really excited to being here to our upperclassmen who were like, but they were still smiling and enjoying the classes they were in. I did want to announce that we have a new school resource officer. It's Officer Ramirez. He's relatively new to the community. And Officer Sam is not going far. It's going to be a soft handoff. She's still going to do stuff supporting our district. For example, she's still going to oversee the DARE program at the elementary school. She's going to work hand in hand with Officer Ramirez and our team with every 15 minutes because that's this year. So she's still in town. She's still supporting the work. She did get a promotion. And so we're excited and wanted to celebrate her for for that. And we're excited to welcome Officer Ramirez to our team. He was on both campuses today. I saw him walking around, introducing himself to students and to staff. The Napa County Office of Ed is hosting two meetings. One is this Thursday? Next Thursday. Larry and I will be going for the Napa Broadband Partnership this Thursday, next Thursday. One of these Thursdays. But the idea is to work with the county as well as the state to make broadband accessible to all community members. So it's pretty exciting for us to be a part of that conversation. They are also hosting a meeting to develop a strategic plan to reduce gang involvement in Napa County based on a grand jury report from April. For us, it's twofold. The precursor is ensuring that we have quality activities and programs for our 12 to 17-year-olds. And so I will be attending with a representative from the city for Parks and Rec, a representative from Calistoga PD, and hopefully a representative from Boys and Girls Club so that we can collectively support each other in providing quality programs for our youth. Friday, August 30th is Up Valley's back to school event at Berry Field. Hopefully you can make it, 4:30. It's a combination of not only the annual back to school event, but it's celebrating 25 years of Up Valley in our community. So that's pretty exciting. I did want to give you an update on the second year of our Calistoga softball team. We came in 4th out of 5 teams. We did not lose. Each year we're getting better and better. And then finally, I did want to give you an update that next month we will be bringing a resolution to the board to sell a next round of bonds so that we can continue the wonderful work that we're doing on our campuses with the construction that we have. So that's coming up with a resolution in September and for us to actually sell the bonds in October. And that's my report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Section 8, oh my gosh, Diego's calling. My niece keeps calling me. Section 8, consent agenda. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Rudy. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt. This is a roll call vote. President Rothberg Allen, aye. Clerk Reed.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Jones is not here. Trustee Rios.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
9, action items. Protocol for action items includes a staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute limit per person. Resolution 9.2 regarding the board's support of Proposition 2.
So I'm going to speak to this one. So this resolution is a formal statement by the board in support of Proposition 2, which is the kindergarten through grade 12 schools and local community college public education facilities modernization, repair, and safety bond act of 2024. It's pretty big resolution. But what this is that Proposition 2 will be on the November ballot, and it's a statewide ballot measure that is granting state bond money for facilities. And the reason that I'm asking the board to pass this resolution in favor of it is that we have benefited from past state bonds because they give matching funds. And so anytime we do a construction project and we are putting money towards either building new or modernizing our campuses, when a state bond is in existence, we can apply for some of those monies. And when we get them, which we have in the past, it allows us to do even more work than we had already set up to do. And so I'm asking for the board to pass Resolution 2425-01 in support of Proposition 2.
Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.3 Proposition 28, Arts and Music in School Funding Annual Report.
Okay, this is the annual school funding report for Prop 28, Music and Arts Funding. Little background on the funding. School districts receive, like we talked about earlier, 1% of the K-12 portion of Prop 98's annual state budget to fund the arts and music programs within school districts. Districts have 3 years to spend the current year allocations. Funds are allocated by school, and a plan must be in place that was approved by the board, which we did with the board in spring of 2023. The expenditure report must be published on the district website after being presented at a board meeting. Our district receives $140,324. That was in 23-24 for this funding. We spent a total of $56,639.67. And we spent all of that on a half-time FTE music teacher at CES. The junior, senior high school and Palisades have not spent any of their allocation for last year. And this is because Ed Code requires that 80% of these dollars be spent on staffing positions related to arts and music. So we're currently looking into filing for a waiver with the state to waive that requirement so that we can use these funds for other expenses that don't require hiring permanent positions. But tonight on the agenda, the board is accepting the annual Prop 28 Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report for the fiscal year 23-24, showing that a half-time music teacher was hired at CES with no funds being expended, with no other funds being expended through June of 2024.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.4 MOU with Howell Mountain Elementary School District.
So I can share a little bit of background with you on this. Howell Mountain has a special education student who needs to be transported to a school in Santa Rosa. We have students in our district who transport students to Santa Rosa. So we started speaking with them in the spring about Howell Mountain bringing their student to Calistoga and getting in the vehicle with our students and being transported. And that was the original agreement. Though we've been talking with them, with their new superintendent over the last several weeks, they cannot find a driver to bring their student down. We could go get their student, but we've adjusted that agreement to account for that. So there's 2 agreements that you see on the agenda, and we're really approving the second one that says updated MOU. This is the one that would account for us going to get the student. Is that right?
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the MOU?
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.5 MOU with CAP President.
Yeah, I'll present this. I'm gonna read some of the language from the MOU. I think that'll be helpful. So Matt Godinez, who's the newly elected president of Calistoga Associated Teachers, has requested a leave of absence for the 2024-25 school year. Education Code 44987 provides that a governing board shall grant leave of absence upon request to the elected officer to conduct union business. And the district is entitled to be reimbursed by the association, in this case, Calistoga Associated Teachers, for the cost of that leave of absence. In this case, Matt has requested a leave of absence of 10% of his duty, not to exceed 20%. I think the idea is around 10% that we've talked about, though that could be up to 20% if there is a need. Following this year, this will be a 1-year agreement for this school year. And following the year, Matt would be reinstated to his full-time position within his classroom. There is some language around activities while on campus or during leave. Matt would be working with a substitute. I think the goal is to find one substitute, like a consistent person who's in the room. I think that's the best for kids, that it's not a different person. It's someone that he can build a relationship with and do some planning with. And yeah, it's non-precedent setting. This would be a 1-year agreement that would end at the end of this year. That's the MOU or related to the request for leave of absence. And I can answer any questions that you might have on that.
Any questions? Can I have,
I move to approve the MOU.
thank you, Matt. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.6 memorandum of understanding with Calistoga Associated Teachers.
So we have an MOU to make an exception to Article 211 of the bargaining agreement for unit member Eric Perry. And what this relates to is our contract has some language that really, the intent is to have all of our teachers and members be here for our professional development days. Exceptions would be you have to care for a family member who needs you to be there, like a sick child. And I think that's good language because we don't want people intentionally missing professional development. We did have an issue last year where we approved the instructional calendar in February. The board approved it. We advertised it to staff. We put it on the website, and it followed our traditional pattern, which is 2 professional development days, followed by a teacher work day, followed by a student day. And then that was in February. And then we had subsequent discussions with Kat. And it's not unique to us. I think for years I've, heard teachers say it's hard to focus on the professional learning when I'm thinking of preparing for the first day with kids. So we said, okay, well, let's try something. Let's put the teacher work day as the first day. Let's get all the preparation done so you can fully engage. So we did that this year. But I don't think we ever really came back and fully advertised that to staff. So I think some of our staff, Eric included, was working off that original February communication. And then I sent out an email a couple weeks ago and said, we're excited to have you back. Here's the schedule. And Eric had scheduled a personal event, and I don't think it's any fault of his. I really think we probably should have gotten out there and said we made a significant change to the pattern that we followed for several years. And so we've agreed with Kat to make an exception for Eric that he can miss that day without penalty and utilize his personal leave.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to- No, you, go.
Go, Rudy.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.7 contract with Californians Dedicated to Education Foundation. Yes, that's what it says on my paper.
That's okay. Or maybe both of us. So for 2 years in a row, we've gone to the LMI conference in the summer, which is a great conference. It's a place where management is coming together with labor and having conversations around how to work together successfully. And it's very cool to see all those folks in the room together, devoting their time to that endeavor. It's very cool. And last year when we came back, we had talked about what are our next steps going to be. And we implemented some strategies and some techniques and systems into our work with staff from LMI. This summer, we agreed with Kat and with CSEA that, we'd like to create a team, a planning team. It's not about negotiations and contracts, but it is about other problems that are coming up and how can we work together to solve them as opposed to the district trying to solve them on our own. Let's work collectively. But that is new work and we'll need some help kind of getting it started. And so this is a contract to have the director of LMI come to Calistoga and help us kind of set the vision and the boundaries for that work so that we can, not just have good intention and try to make it work for us, but have some real expertise with someone who's done this in lots of districts so that it's successful. So this is an agreement with LMI for consultation services.
Yes.
Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the agreement of the contract as presented.
Thank you, Matt. Second,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.8 agreement with the University of the Pacific.
This is an agreement for to have a student teacher on our campus with the University of Pacific. This is a very standard agreement. We have this with many universities and colleges. We do not currently have one with the University of Pacific, so this gets one approved so that should we have a student teacher, we can put them in place and not have to come back for approval later in that process.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the contract.
Second,
Second.
Rudy. Oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agreement, 9.9 agreement with Sonoma State University.
This is a little bit different than 9.8. This is actually an agreement to work with Sonoma State to have an intern credentialed teacher in our district. We currently have a teacher, one of our special ed teachers on leave. And in the interim, The individual who's taking over that class is in an intern credential program with Sonoma State. And so this is an agreement to have an intern credentialed candidate, and it outlines the obligations of Sonoma State as well as our obligations and how we support the teacher.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agreement.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.10, agreement with designated for learning on AI pilot cohort.
Okay, so this is the fun stuff, I think. This is a consultation agreement with Design for Learning. They're the group that did our professional development actually during COVID and distance learning. We had a really good experience with them. They're very good at what they do. And this is an agreement to have them support us this year to pilot some different education specific AI programs. Our Educational Technology Committee will have this consultant or part of each of our ed tech meetings to help us look at several tools that are AI tools that are specifically designed for education. Some districts have already kind of chosen those tools from the district level. Somebody saw it and said, that's the one. It's not really how we typically do business in Calistoga. We usually try to get input and have some process around lots of stakeholders involved in the decision making. So I think it'll be good with ed tech. It's a diverse group of folks to look at some different platforms and see, is there a platform that would be right for us? And these are platforms that help teachers design lessons, lesson planning, grading, rubric creation, standard evaluation, very education specific AI tool versus ChatGPT or Gemini, something that's just AI, a general tool. So this is an agreement for consultation with Design for Learning to do that consultation with us.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agreement.
Thank you, Laurel. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.11, agreement with designated for learning on Gemini for Google Workspace PD.
So this is a separate agreement with Design for Learning, and this is for specifically for the PD that occurred on last Thursday. In addition to the PD, the folks that opt in to use that tool will get asynchronous lessons throughout the year for them. So it's not just here's the tool, go play and use it. It's here's the tool, and we're going to support you throughout the year to figure out how to use this as an educator.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agreement.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.12, agreement with Muiman Consulting.
Yep, this is an agreement with Laura Moyman and Moyman Consulting. And she is an expert in the field of combining PBIS and restorative practices. So PBIS is about explicit expectations and rewards for good student behavior. Restorative practices is about alternative means of correction versus punitive correction. And she does a good job of bringing these things together. Kesa Enemark, our vice principal at the elementary school, is pretty passionate about this work and wants to really engage her staff with professional development, but she's also very busy with a lot of tasks. And so this is an agreement for her to consult with Laura to help put together lessons and training material for her staff so that she can train both classified and certificated staff this year.
I move to approve this agreement.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll second.
Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.13, proposal with UBEO Business Services.
Hello, everyone. One of the things that we had worked and discussed with our certificated staff last year is navigating some of the challenges that our team was having accessing our copy machines. As with most of the technology that we've been working on over the past few years, a lot of the copier services that we have are dated. The machines were kind of purchased in a staggered approach. And so some of the feature set across those tools are not consistent or accessible to all staff in the way that we would like them to be. A prime example is the copier machine in the district office no longer has driver support for Macs as of 2 years ago. So we've been kind of limping along with it for right now. That being said, we evaluated 5 separate proposals. The one that is in your board packet, I apologize, is incredibly long because it's technically 2 proposals, and copier folks love packing those full of marketing material. But I wanted you to have it as we received it. The primary thing that we're looking to do is replace the copy machines and deploy a new print services management contract. This basically sets the pricing for all of our print jobs to a standard rate. So our desktop printers will have a standard rate. Our copy machines will have a lower standard rate. The print services tool will help us kind of gently nudge staff when doing large volume to pretty please use the copy machines, because obviously it saves a considerable amount of money. Some other feature sets that we're looking to add are the ability to scan directly from the copy machines to their Google Drive accounts, streamlining their workflow processes. I'm happy to address any questions.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the proposal.
Thank you, Laurel. Second,
I'll second.
Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
9.14, agreement with Persing Architects.
So a while ago, we got a kind of a grant from PG&E to purchase generators. In order to install the generators, we have to go through DSA for the connection as well as the area that they're going to sit in. So this is Persing Architects' proposal to handle all the DSA and design portion of our generator install.
Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the agreement.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9.15, agreement with PlaceWorks.
So PlaceWorks is a company that is going to do the CEQA study for athletic fields. That proposal is if they have to take it all the way through an EIR, but the hope is that we can get by with a mitigated negative declaration and move forward with the work.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
thanks, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 9.16, agreement with CASA Studios.
This is the architect agreement for the four TK kinder classrooms as well as the exterior or the outside learning area.
Can I have a motion?
Moved.
It's Rudy's turn.
Second.
Thanks, Laurel. All in favor?
Aye.
We're missing Indira today, huh? 10 closing items. 10.1 board member reports.
I just wanted to bring up, I know that we mentioned it in the last June meeting. I believe President Rothbard Allen also asked for just a report on bullying within our district, and also the amount of homework that our students have. If we could visit, just make sure that it's on the radar for maybe one of the board meetings coming up. And then I spoke to Dr. Pittman a little bit about it earlier today, about kids that have participated in inter-district transfers. If we could have maybe a report on the number of students that have transferred, the reasons they have transferred, at what age they transfer, if there is a commonality between at this grade level, we see the most amount of transfers, just to kind of take a look at it from a wide angle approach and see if there's anything we could be doing to better help those students that seek out other districts.
So I do want to respond to that. One is your request for bullying and student expectations is on the September board meeting. So it's listed as a tentative future agenda item. One of the next steps with homework is we surveyed the staff. And so Michael is working on a survey to put out to families about homework as well, so that we can get a full circle response. And then third is in terms of inter-district transfers, we rescheduled our summer board meeting. And so we'll want to find a date where we can do a study session specifically around enrollment.
Okay.
And so that'll be coming up in the next month or two.
Okay. And on the tentative future agenda items, which item is the bullying? Is that student expectation?
Student expectation reports by school. it'll clearly be late. It's about expectations for students, behavior expectations for
I
students.
think it's more on the issues that are.
Right, and how are we
currently happening.
addressing that?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, our next meeting is September 9th. Tentative future agenda items, I think we covered. And 10.4, there's no need to reconvene to close session.
I move we adjourn.
Thanks, Matt. Second,
Second.
thanks, Rudy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome back, everyone. Blue energy today.